All right. Okay, here we go. Welcome to Purpose Driven Sobriety. My name is Christine and I'm an alcoholic. Today, I want to just kind of start out by thanking a personal friend of mine and a friend of sobriety, Shanna Cummings, who sponsored this episode. Thank you so much, Shanna, for all you do. I'm grateful for your support. So today we have Mr. Ed Biittig. Did I pronounce that right, Ed?
You did very
I
well.
did.
That's
I,
a
d- I did. Good. Well, yeah, you're on the show today, and let me just tell you, you caught my eye, sir. I was on a recovery page, and I'm in several different groups, which I'm sure as you are, and I caught a photograph of you, and you had on a T-shirt that said, and I don't recall the exact number, but it was like 17,000 something something days sober. And
yes.
I thought that is my guy right there because I too I wear my sobriety literally. I am I'm a little out there most of the time. I think my husband affectionately calls me extra, which I think is a compliment, but I'm not sure. But I have all types of, rock bottom is the solid foundation I built my life on, and just different types of recovery shirts. And so I loved how open you were. And so when I did the math, that those days added up to 49 years.
Whew.
That's a minute. I know when you hear someone else say that, that's a minute, isn't it? My
it
goodness.
it is so out there. And I read a post yesterday that someone was sober for their first Easter,
Oh my
and
gosh.
and I have been sober for 49 of them.
Wow.
Uh, and and at moments, it is hard to believe.
But
That
it does it, and at times it feels like it was just yesterday, huh?
it, I can't even believe that these days that tick by, which is of course today's 17,952 days.
Oh my
Uh,
goodness.
so we're getting used to, or 589 months.
There you go.
So it's
However
just
you want to count it.
it's a minor thing, but it is such an enjoyable life.
What a
Uh,
blessing, huh?
to go out yesterday for a brunch first with my son, his wife, uh, my granddaughter, my wife, and my ex-wife was there also.
Oh,
So it
that's
was
beautiful.
it was
That's
it was
beautiful.
quite a uh, it was
As
quite a
it
lunch.
should
And
be.
then I spent the afternoon with my sisters, my nephews, and their children, and have that opportunity to be somewhere where people wanted you,
Right.
uh, and rather than not want you there,
Right.
uh, and for them, and I'm always, without a doubt, they're always aware of who I am, especially with the amount of things that I do post, because I have a T-shirt on today that I speak loudly so that people don't have to die quietly.
Oh, wow. Oh, that
And
just gave me chills, Ed. I
and
love that one.
and to me, and I think that's uh, I was given this. I was given this gift, and it's not for me just to hold on to. I I could have, with 49 years, I could sit in my living room or in a recliner that I'm in now. I could live here. I've been retired 27 years.
Mm.
I could live in this recliner and say, I've done what I have to do. I'm sober, uh, but that's not it. My answer is, I want anyone to know. I don't care where I am. If I'm in a mall, if I'm in a store or I'm at a grocery store, uh, I want people to know that this guy that's 75 has spent two-thirds of his life sober,
Wow.
and I wear a slate around my neck along with my cross, and the slate has the date of my sobriety on it,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
and
Okay.
I, I make these for people in recovery
I love
because
it.
the date is so very important, that I want to make sure that they understand when you put that on, and you walk through that mirror and see it might be that one day that you're having a struggle,
Right.
and and we certainly all know that whether you're an alcoholic or not, we have bad days.
Oh, yeah. Don't we, though? Mm-hmm.
And because you're in recovery, we don't erase that. We still have bad days.
Right.
Tomorrow morning, my car may not start. Not because I'm an alcoholic in recovery. It just, my car won't
Life
start.
does life. That's right. That's exactly
And,
right.
And sometimes we lose sight of that. And we have to be careful of that. That we understand life still goes on. There's still people around us that I don't know where some of it comes from. Some of them, I think, would like us to join them,
Mm-hmm.
and not be on this road that we're on. And but I have found so much comfort on the road that we're on, and especially from the people. And to me, even with I try to make sure that people understand all those days in the 49 years only mean that it's possible. It doesn't mean that Ed is a miracle man.
Mm-hmm.
It means that today I am sober.
Right. So tell me what you were like before this 17,900. How many is today?
952 days today.
So how were you 17,951 days ago?
Well, on the day before that, at 17,953 days ago, I had handcuffs on in front of a judge.
Oh, dear.
And it wasn't a good day. But I had just been arrested for drunk driving in a town that was not anywhere near the location I was supposed to be in. I didn't live there in that town.
Oh.
And I had come from one of those, a union meeting where I thought drinking was pretty important at the union meeting. So I drank pretty much. And when they tested me, I was at 0.20. And when the policeman had talked to me on the highway, he said, do you know why I stopped you? And I said, no. He said, so I figured, even as drunk as I was, I said, well, was I weaving? And he said, you were weaving. He says, you came right at my police car and your head never turned. And he said, I knew that we had a major issue. So I followed you for 2 miles with lights and siren going, and
dear.
you didn't notice.
Uh-oh.
And he said, I was concerned that you were going to go to a city shortly and hit vehicles. And he says, for some reason, you stopped. And on that evening, he very well probably have saved my life, because previous to that, I'd had 5 car crashes. It was the 1970s. The policeman, and at the moment when it happened, and people can look at it the way they want, when the policeman took me home from those car crashes without any consequence, I was never arrested. And here I had totaled 5 brand new Impalas. My insurance rates were more than the car payments, and but at the state of New York had a thing where you had to be able to get insurance if you could pay for it.
Right.
So we did that, and all the while thinking, oh my goodness, these policemen really were friends of mine, not realizing that they opened a door that I could have killed someone else or myself.
But back then, that was the norm. That was, it's not.
It was who we were.
Yeah.
And everyone did it, and
right.
And actually, if you were to talk to people, that was more it than the factor of saying I'm not going to drink, because then you look like you had 2 heads and a whatever, and you certainly weren't invited to parties. So, but when I was arrested and went before a judge, and I did this whole thing going back before a judge. Like a week later, I had to appear in court. I brought my son with me, who I could have killed his son in one of my car crashes. He was 3 years old. I was clean shaven, and the judge said, "Oh, you look like a wonderful father right now." And he said, "And it's really hard to tell how bad you were." He says, by how you look right now, because now you're a proud parent. And but he said, I looked at your driving record, which threw me off because I didn't realize motor vehicle had a copy of every accident, even though it wasn't a chargeable accident. So motor vehicle said I had 5 car crashes at 2 a.m.
Mm.
And the judge said, you have an issue. And your issue is you're probably an alcoholic.
So were you married at the time?
I was married at the time.
Had
and,
one child?
I had one child. I had also recently lost a child at birth, the second child, and we re-raised the first child. And here, when I look at what was going on at that point, I had never driven until I applied for a job at a phone company. I went to a phone company, and someone said, "Oh, I'll get you a job in the phone company." So no one realized I didn't have a license when I was younger. I didn't care about driving. I cared about drinking. So in order to get a license, I called a friend of mine. And he took me out for a driver's test. I got a license, and I knew about my drinking. I knew that the conditions I was in most of the time, I couldn't drive a car. So I took every friend I had, and I would be out drinking. I'd call a friend of mine to pick me up, and you wear that out.
Do you come from a family of drinkers?
Yes.
Do the roots run deep with this ism?
It sure did. There was so much access to alcohol in my home. At 13 years old, I started taking beer out of a rear case of Smith's beer. And my father would have beer delivered to the house, and I would open the rear of the case. Now, I must have thought I was a magician, taking beer out of the case so that no one knew it was missing. Half the case is gone. And at 13, I'm doing this. And to the point that we even had hard cider in the basement in a barrel. It was not, you couldn't even hardly swallow it. I had to mix it with orange juice to swallow it.
Oh, wow.
And this stuff, and it should have been a point there that you might have an issue with where you're headed. But, and local stores were different at the time. Between cigarettes and alcohol, I had no problem getting either. And one local store had 3 quarts of beer for $1. Now, what you were getting for $1 was not probably something you should be swallowing.
Oh my!
But, and at that time, we had a deposit law at that time before it went away and then came back again. We would pick up bottles on the way to the store and get. And then
credit for them.
How many bottles we found would be how much beer we could buy. And of course, that became the thing that I lived on. I didn't go out for sports. I didn't do anything else between drinking and smoking. And I was without a doubt going to prove to my family on how to drink, because I realized that they didn't know how to do it.
So they were bad at it, huh?
I showed them. It was the trip was unbelievable, and once the things started happening, especially the car crashes, all happened like within 6-month period.
Oh wow!
And it was so hard to believe. I would have one car. By the time I got one car, either fixed or a new car. And I'd have to call the insurance agent and say, we have another car to look at. And and it became a point that I would call the insurance. I told him that I had totaled a car, and he told me, I'm the agent. I said, it's my 5th car. It's in the trees off the road. I says, I believe it's totaled. Yeah, and it was. But I drove into a building one evening. A brand new car. I drove it into a building, which was a bar. I drove it into the building. I left the car, and because I had hit my nose on the steering wheel, the police came to the scene looking for a body that wasn't there. And I was at a corner store. I had a dime left in my pocket from my paycheck. I'd spent my entire paycheck. So I found a dime, and I was calling the police to let them know that I'd crashed. And they said they were looking for my body under this car because it was a convertible. The motor was in the seat with me.
Oh my goodness.
And I had, of all things, by hitting my nose, there was so much blood in the car, they thought that I was probably dead somewhere. And so when they did show up, and I'm at this local store, they came and got me, and they said, and they wanted me to go to a hospital over the fact of the issue of the way I looked. And of all things, this car was so new, I did not have a registration for it.
Oh, wow.
So it was at home, and the police were going to charge me with a stolen vehicle, and it was my car. And the only thing, I didn't have the paperwork. And my ex-wife decided she was going to decide to have a joke of the fact that she wasn't going to bring the registration.
Oh,
she was
going to show you, huh?
Said, well, here, at this point, she's probably saying, I've had enough of these car crashes. And it was just so many of those. I hit 2 parked cars on a street one time with another car. I hit 2 parked cars. I went home and parked my car in front of my house on the street where the police, when they drove by, saw my car. And the car was wrecked. And they came and took me to the police station. They asked me if I would report it to my insurance company, and I said yes, I would. And they released me. The owners of these cars were livid. They didn't understand how you would ever let a person out that had just done this to people's cars. But those were the number of things that all these things just continued to add up.
But so, were you holding a job?
I was holding a job, and I don't even, there's moments that I'd had to wonder, because I'd gotten that job at the phone company, because prior to that, I had probably 27 jobs. And then this job at the phone company, which turned out to be a job I retired from. But being there, you had like a 6-month period that if you shined for 6 months, you had to be a thief or something else or a criminal in order to be fired. Mm-hmm. And you were just like permanent. Wow. And at moments, I was downtown at a hotel, recovering from a drunk and not even able to walk up a hill where I worked. And here I am. I was paid for an absence. I was downtown drunk, and it was just, it got to be almost too easy with everything you went to do. But that judge I met gave me an offer. He said, you have a problem that I don't know what to do with. And he said, I recently went to a program we have at a local hospital. He says, and it was called a Spark unit. It was the St. Peter's Hospital Recovery Unit. And he said, I don't know about that. He said, it's a program that you go there. It's an outpatient program. And you can pick that program, or you can pick jail, whichever you would like. So I said, well, I could make 8 weeks at a program, because I knew I couldn't drink during the program. So because as a Catholic, I knew that I could get away with the fact I used to not drink during Lent. So I figured 8 weeks is going to be a little longer, but I could probably make it to the end of it. And so I had this bright idea of doing this. And the program, I went to it. I was making it through the program. Everything seemed fine. And but then when we came to the end of it, I met with a counselor at the last day of this session, and it wasn't my counselor. This counselor that came was someone that had been through recovery, and she knew every line that we like to tell people about who we are and what we can do, cannot do. And so she asked me what my plan was as I was going to leave that day.
So she saw you.
She happened to know that
saw you. Yeah.
There's a tune that I had that she already knew it.
Yep.
And she gave me she probably gave me information on that day that was so unbelievable that I I couldn't even comprehend it at first because she said, well, what is your plan? I said, around the corner from this hospital, down the street, there's a bar that I've been looking at for 8 weeks. And she said, yeah. And I says, I'm going there for 5 drinks. She got up out of her desk and hit me in the head with a 3-inch book and said, you may very well be the stupidest person that's ever been here.
Ooh, she didn't mince words, did she?
No. And I said, well, thanks for sharing. And she said, where on earth did you come up with 5 drinks? I said, it used to be 10. I said, now I'm going to do it with 5. And this is the brightest idea in the world to come up with. So she said, I can share something with you before you leave here today that may help you. And she said, if what you want to do, she said, if you want to stop drinking, your problem's not 5 and it's not 10. She says, Ed, your problem is 1.
Oh, wow.
She says, I can promise you today, as you leave here, if you don't have 1, this problem's over. And fine, at that moment, I thought the woman was nuts. I'm saying, oh, okay, this is gonna be fine. But it was so very hard to believe that what that woman shared with me that day, and it only turned around to the fact that she wasn't even my counselor. And by the fluke of whatever happened on that given day, I left there with that information. And all the days that have ticked by.
So hang on. Let's back up. Where'd you go when you left that door?
I did not go to that bar.
You went home? Did you go home?
I went home.
Wow.
And I said, and of course, at this point, I already have 8 weeks into this. So I knew I had to go somewhere a little farther. There was a person up there that was teaching a drunk driving program at that hospital. And he was also in recovery. So he said to me, Ed, if you would like to do yourself a favor, he says, you're all finished. You can walk out the door. And that's over with. And I'm saying, well, this is fine. I'm all set to go then. But he says, I bet you one thing. And I said, what is that? He says, I bet you can't come here for a year. He says, come here every week for a year. He says, at the end of 1 year, you can do whatever you choose. You can leave or not. But he said, and the thing for me is that he was a person that was in recovery. And he had been down such a road on a 95-degree day. He had his feet inside an electric heater almost because he was freezing. And that is what he had done to his body with the drinking that he did. And that wasn't going away. And that's who he was. And but that challenge to me was something that I said, well, I can do this. And so I not only went there, I went to meetings. I went there all the time for 1 year, thinking, well, in 1 year it'll be over. I could make this. And it was a fact that it appeared that he was challenging me to do this. And I didn't realize at the time that every day that went by, I was getting more comfortable with who I was.
Wow.
And I was also able to start looking at what got me to where I was. And sometimes I think it's one of the failing points that we have at this. We don't look at the problem is not alcohol.
Right. See, oh my goodness. You know, I posted last week or sometime last week, I posted introduce yourself by what almost killed you.
Yes.
Right? And you know, clearly I'm not in the business to tell people, you know, take anybody's inventory type thing, but the number of people that said, hi, and they named the substance, you know, hi, I'm methamphetamine, hi, I'm, you know, cocaine, hi, I'm alcohol, hi, I'm, and it's just like, oh no, honey, hi, I'm me. I am Christine. Christine tried to kill Christine. Just like, you know, and of course, you know, I'm in Texas. And so, you know, just like we say here, you know, guns don't kill people. people kill people. You know,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's not the alcohol, and that took me. It took me a minute to understand that, you know, and but when you have that epiphany, that you can't unknow that, right?
Yes.
Once you
Yep.
know that, there is a mirror that tends, or at least for me, that's how it happened to me. There was a mirror that followed me around, you know, that just reminded me, you are your problem, sister. Not and trying to blame alcohol, you know, what is it I've heard you spell blame by be lame, you know? I mean, it's the alcohol was not my problem. It was a symptom. So I get
Yep.
that. I totally get that.
Well, there's so much, Christina, that what we do along the way here, and the more you see it, is that uh, people had heard about my stopping drinking or the giving up drinking for Lent or whatever have you. I quit drinking probably for 2 weeks every time I had a car crash.
Mm.
And like that, it would be that's the end. And my lifelong mission usually lasted 2 weeks before I got back behind the wheel drunk again.
Mm-hmm.
And the numbers they give out to people that you drive 80 times before you're arrested, the numbers are ridiculous, because there's some people that have probably driven a few hundred times and never been arrested. And to me, my one arrest is what turned my life around. One judge that I met, but of course, I never realized that my home life and my upbringing, and I'm looking at a family. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and I'm saying, and I'm like in the middle of this whole thing. I'm the youngest of boys, and then I got 4 sisters, an older sister and 3 younger ones. And should they have been sick of me? Without a doubt. I was, and we have a habit of doing that. I became the star of everything because I was always in trouble doing something. Mm-hmm. And so when this took place, I knew I had to go with something. I did not announce that I wasn't drinking. I didn't say a word to anybody. One of the few people that recognized there was something to it was my former father-in-law, before he passed away, said that I was not the same person anymore.
Oh, wow.
And he realized that I had changed. Of course, he didn't realize that a short time after that, I would divorce his daughter, but she divorced me. But it was part of. I didn't want that story anymore. Of well, I'm going to do. I've already proven to everybody that I wasn't going to do that.
Right.
That I was, and they were tired of it, and so was I. It wasn't a one-sided deal.
So words just didn't matter anymore.
No,
when it came to that,
these promises that meant nothing, and to do it over and over, and they were sick of it, and so was I. And to look at that, and then turn around to give yourself time to look at these, and the part that gets you today, Christine, that we look at, and it's probably hard for people to understand. 49 years later, I'll sit in somewheres, and all of a sudden, I'll either hear something from someone, and it's exactly something that took place in my life somewheres that I had put away, so that I didn't have to face that or think about it. And it's probably one of the difficult things to do, is to face these things that we ran away from. We spent all this time. I spent 13 years burying myself, and I've spent a long time now uncovering myself, and not getting back. By all means, without a doubt, between the drinking and smoking, I should be in a cemetery. Mm-hmm. And without a doubt, if that continued, you can't do the drinking and the crashing that I was doing, and also smoke 2 cartons of cigarettes a week, which are, however they put it, it is all connected.
Right.
And it's who you are. And I know we went through a thing. I went to my doctor, and she said, Ed, I don't know how to tell you this. She says, you haven't drank in a long time, and you haven't smoked in a long time. She says, your health, she said, you're not going to die of cancer, and you're probably not going to die of a heart disease. She says, but, or cirrhosis, she said, but she says, you're going to die from diabetes. The problem being is that somewhere along the way, with all these years, I didn't understand the fact that whatever I did habitually, I did it with everything I do. And she said to me, what is it that you're eating? And I said, is it jelly donuts? And she said, it could be. She said, how many jelly donuts? I said, 4. She said, a week? I said, no, a day. She said, oh. She says, do you understand who you are? She says, you have an issue, Ed, with things. She says, you do nothing small. Everything you touch is that way. And she said, and so I have an app on my phone that lists the number of days sober. It lists the number of days without smoking and years, because now it's 42 years without smoking. And now today it's 3,386 days without a jelly donut.
I love that you said that, because it's not, the isms. I mean, it doesn't go away. And if you're not, when you know that about yourself, when you know,
yes.
And especially when your inner circle knows that about you, they can help kind of watch out for you. But when you know that about yourself, it's easier to accept and adjust and do something like an app where you can see, visibly your progress and what you're doing. But it's not just mind-altering substances that this, has this disease has to play into.
We have to make sure where our comfort is, and we don't always understand it. A few years back, through my present marriage and my next mother-in-law, when she got elderly, I helped build an apartment in where we were living for her to come stay. And then we were going to Florida, and she moved in with my stepdaughter. And when we came back from Florida, she wanted to stay with our stepdaughter. And she got to a point where she had to have people around her to take care of her. So we moved in with my stepdaughter to take care of her. And so everything was going fine. And then as time went on, we lost her. And so we decided, my stepdaughter says, I want you guys to stay. She says, why don't you sell your home? And we did. And we moved in, and everything's been fine. Now, this stepdaughter has been my stepdaughter. She's a teacher for over 27 years, a special ed. And she said that's why she's a special ed teacher, because of me. And so so I've been with her since she was 5 years old, and now she's 52. And I came home one day, and a closet in the kitchen, as I open it up, and there's a whole shelf where all the snacks were. And they used to be potato chips and jacks and popcorn. Everything that was so wonderful to be eaten was on that shelf. On this day, it was full of wine bottles. And I said to my wife, I said, does anyone know that an alcoholic lives here? And she said, Ed, she says, I think we should tell you something. She says, you're the alcoholic. If that bothers you, we have to know it. She says, because when they put it there, they didn't realize that. It was removed immediately. But it did show me one thing very quickly. We can't assume that other people are going to do what we need to have done. Mm-hmm. Or that simple thing of saying, you know what, I can do this. There's not, I can, you can't. And I've tried to make sure people understand, if you have a bad feeling about something, there's a reason. And if you don't work with that principle, this fact of saying, oh, I can handle, you can't.
Or stay quiet. I mean, I can imagine. Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't. I can go anywhere. 11 years later, I can go anywhere there's alcohol. You can have all you want, but when I go home, that's my safe place. That's my haven, and I can't imagine Rick bringing alcohol into the house and me not saying anything. It would just be something that would terrorize me with it.
Yeah.
So
you
yeah.
mentioned it the other day, and I've heard it before. It's a simple fact. It's that guy that goes to a barbershop every day. He's going to get a haircut.
That's right.
And I've heard that a few times, and it is certainly correct. If I've watched people and what they do, it's all part of what we have to do. And what I find myself especially doing is that after like 33 years sober, I had a brilliant idea that I would get a hold of a local TV station, and the guy was doing these little things in between about what people do, and I called him up and I said, I've been sober for 33 years. I would like to go back and honor the judge that sent me to these programs. So he said, he called me back, and we went out to see this judge. The town that it was in was very strange with their ideas. Because he was no longer a judge, they wouldn't let us use the courtroom. So we had to be outside the courthouse. And with talking with the judge, he was so astounded that I was back after 33 years.
Wow, what a blessing for him, though.
And when I called his home and told his wife, she was beyond it. She said she couldn't even believe what this would be. And so when the newsman is interviewing the judge, and he said, what was it like to deal with Ed? And the judge said, I didn't know what the hell to do with him. He says, I knew he had a problem.
He remembered you.
Yes.
Wow.
And he said, luckily, I visited that program. And even the program itself, when they hear that I was one of the first graduates of that program, and that I'm still out here marching with them, because every year we have a march in September for recovery, and they're there representing St. Peter's Hospital. And
so the program is still in operation.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's still there, and it's gotten bigger now. They have other locations, and I can tell people that it works, and I can prove it works. And to look at it, that's probably one of the most important parts of it, is that no matter what we do, is that especially when it works, and I'm afraid too often it's very simple to turn around and say, well, it worked for me, but you don't tell the world that it worked for you. I understand years ago that maybe you didn't want to tell people that, you know what, I'm a recovering alcoholic. I used the word alcoholic. I have a shirt that says alcoholic on it, and the people would look at me like I lived under a bridge. And I'm saying, do you have a problem with that? And so we finally had to go with the word recovery, because people don't get upset with recovery.
So let me ask you a question, just because I'm curious, because this has been a debate in a couple of the groups I'm in. So when you, just because I'm curious and just speaking for yourself, do you consider yourself recovering or recovered with a D?
I'm actually recovered, because but not to the point that, I would personally rather go with the term that I'm an alcoholic, and live with that, saying you don't find different names for cancer.
Right.
You have cancer. If you're being treated for it, you still have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
If you have heart disease, I spoke to 7,000 school kids in 4 years and told them, if I have a choice between cancer, heart disease, and alcoholism, I'm taking alcoholism, because I've proven you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the one I want if I have an option. And to me,
so what you're saying is you're not cured, given
I'm not cured. I'm only cured I'm actually, Kristen, I'm only cured today.
So you're still taking it 49 years later. You're still doing this deal one day at a time. Look at that.
And I want it to stay there because it works.
Well, I get what you're saying, and the reason that debate came up was someone had said, because I consider myself recovering alcoholic.
Yep.
I don't ever want to be cured, and I don't want to be cured because I love this life. I love my community. Yep. I love the groups that I'm in, and the people that I hang out with, and I had someone kind of get in an argument with me. And, she was saying, you haven't drank in 11 years. You're clearly recovered. And I said, don't take that away from me. Don't take that away from me. If you take this life, this way of life away from me, I will kill myself. I know that because I've proven it. Time and time again. So it's like I am recovered, recovering, not cured. The obsession has been removed, but I'm just as much an alcoholic right now as I was 11 years ago.
And one of the winning parts for you, especially when I'm looking at it with 49 years at this business that we're in, is that you're doing more with your recovery than an awful lot of people do, because keeping it to ourselves is not fair to anyone else. That person that is walking down the street and sees you on the street and say, why on earth would that person be that happy? They don't have a clue where you came from and what you've done.
Right.
And that part to me is why when someone said to me, Ed, do you know that you're a walking billboard for recovery?
Yes, thank you. Biggest compliment ever.
And I said, that's what I want. If I'm in that mall and that person, and I don't care if it's 24 hours, I was there. And I pay so much attention to so many people on Facebook postings that have a month. I dig through the coins. I take a photo of the coins and post them for them to make sure that they know that somebody out there cares about that month and how important it is to them.
Well, and especially when they say, I only have a month, and it's like, oh, honey, please don't put the word only in front of your time. I don't care. Just like you said, I don't care if it's 24 hours or 24 years. Don't put only in front of it, because that is a miracle. A miracle.
And we lose that sight too often sometimes, is that we don't always get that of what the possibilities are for us. If we can always make sure that they know this is what's possible. This is the other part of this. And I want to make sure at the end of it, they know that it's still, and I try to make sure on a post that it's still one day at a time, no matter how many days it is, or weeks or months, or in sharing the story, watching people, and or when someone responds to me that you're showing me that something's possible, and that feeling at those moments are the thing that do so much for you.
It's hope. It's hope
that you're doing that you are sharing it, and you're getting something. You're getting something so rich back from these people. This is priceless. These things that we're looking at and what we did. I mentioned to you the other day that on May 2nd, I'll be awarded the Mothers Against Drivers award for what I do for recovery for people in our area. And I'll be the first civilian to ever get this award.
Wow.
Usually it's a police officer or someone in the court system. And to have my name submitted by a deputy sheriff who, and at that same day, she will receive the Lifetime Achievement for what she does. And she's such a beautiful person. She's very close to the same age as my daughter. I've worked with her for probably 7 or 8 years. And it was so great to deal with her. He was a young lady that did not have an issue with alcohol or drugs, right? But she wanted to know everything that she could know. And when she spoke to those kids, the longer she did it, She was supposed to be a biology teacher, and at the end of her schooling, she became a policewoman. And,
Well, I'll be.
and she's such a beautiful person. And our programs changed after COVID, so that we don't have those programs with all the students anymore. But it was such a learning thing to speak to kids for 3 hours about my recovery, and a lot of them, we had index cards that we had them make out at the end of it, so that we knew were they getting anything out of the programs. And they would talk about this old man that had so many days, and we had a person come to speak one day. He was in recovery. He was at a Hope House, and he came to speak, and he referred to me as the person with 1,000 years of recovery.
Oh my goodness.
But it was, and I got to see him in Florida. I hadn't seen him in a while, and he's doing so well. These stories of people that are making it through this, and for anyone to think this is not an easy trip, folks, and for anyone that thinks it is, it's not. There's things out there and people out there, and I know for the longest time, I don't know what I thought I was supposed to do for some people. There's some people you can't do a thing for, and that's a very hard thing to learn. And sometimes they may be very close to you, and that's sometimes the feeling is even worse. Mm-hmm. The fact that how could you help so many people, and then someone you really need to help, that you can't do that no matter what you offer them. And so it's but all you can actually do is, like anything else, just show them of where you are and that you're still here, and that door is open, and that's pretty much why I don't shut my phone off. I don't. I'm not a sponsor for people, but I'm always here. And my sponsor, and people laughed at me probably at times, I only have to look upward for my sponsor. He's never busy. There's no answering system or anything else, but I just go directly to that source, mm-hmm. and know that it works. Mm-hmm. And I know what works for me by having that. As with the slate I wear around my neck, there's also a cross, and I've had people say to me, which is more important? And I said, there's no which is more important. Mm-mm. Without both, mm-hmm. I wouldn't have either.
Right.
I said, and I've watched people look like everything was going so well until they decided to alter the plan. Everything was working for you. Why did you decide you didn't have to do this? And it, to me, at times in this program, along the way, I've had people that I didn't know if I wanted to hug them or strangle them, because when I heard what caused them, the period of COVID that we went through, one of my dearest relatives, he had disowned me during my drinking, and it was a tough road. Not to him. He was my older brother, and he said, "We can go to the same place, Ed, but please don't come near me when you go there." And wow. So for the longest time, even when I stopped drinking, I didn't have much contact with him. And then as time went on, he came to one of the programs that I was at, speaking in a school that I had graduated from. And he came to watch the program, and he was talking to one of the policemen that was there. And the policeman said to him, "Your brother's quite a guy." And he said, "He's not only my brother, he's my best friend."
Oh my goodness.
And I lost him to COVID. And it's part of the issues that I look at, and I've tried to explain to people. I lost 7 relatives with COVID. A brother, 3 sister-in-laws, 2 nieces, and a nephew. Wow. And at any given time, I could have said, is this trip really worth it? And of course, if I wanted a reason, it would have been ideal. And just to show you how wacky some of my ideas are, because I live a certain way, and I don't change these things. I went into a restaurant on Friday, and of course, during Lent, the fish deal is a wonderful thing. I'm 75 years old. Do I need to eat fish? I don't. Someone says you don't do enough, but I usually do eat fish. So on Friday, a guy said to me, I says, I don't know what I'm doing on a hot dog stand. I said, what am I going to? He says, I have fish fries. And the part that disturbs me a little is that when they gave me the receipt, and they gave me the receipt before I got the food, and I said to the waitress, this says it's beer batter dip. And she says, it is. I said, I can't have it. And she said, you can't? I said, no. I said, I don't eat things that are beer batter dipped. I says, I don't eat anything that says beer on it. And do I disagree with Rachel Ray about cooking food out of it? I don't need it.
Yeah, if that's what works for you, and you can, absolutely stick to that.
And
I'm the same. Rum cake
it's pretty much where we are. I've had people say to me, Ed, did you ever try O'Doul's beer? I said, why would I try O'Doul's beer? And they said, well, you could drink this. And I said, let me explain something to you. If I could drink, I would. I said, I think I've proven already that I can't. I said, why don't we just go with that instead of trying to say I need imitation something?
Right.
I said, and it's pretty much who I am, and I don't care whether it's mouthwash or what it is. I read the labels.
Yep, cough syrup. I'm the exact same way. Well, and now the 0 alcohol beers and stuff are all the rage, and it's just like, why do you? I had a friend in the program ask me, my take on that, and he was a few months sober, and I said, what inside you makes you feel like you have to do that? I mean, is the love of the taste of beer just that strong that that's just my humble opinion, to each his own. But I certainly see that. And like I said, I'm the same way. I haven't put cough syrup in this body in 11 years. Of course, mouthwash is a sore subject with me. Cause my very last drunk was a Sam-sized bottle of Listerine. That's how desperate I got. I coil away from that as if it's a hot flame, and I intend to do that hopefully for the rest of my life, but we'll see. But for today, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want it in my house. I don't want it, I get it.
Yeah. There's so many things to it. And when I watch people and how they handle different things, I had a gentleman, every week I heard him, he said, I've had 24 years without a drink, and fine, I heard it every week. And then one week he said, I haven't had a drink since last Wednesday. And whether it is selfish or what it is, I look at, well, wait a minute. He had 24 and I have 40 some years. I need to know why that happened. And his response to me was, I went by a Coors beer billboard every day on my way to work. And that was the moment that I thought I should either strangle him or hug him. I said, is that the only road on the way to work? It was not the billboard. It was himself.
Right.
That let. If you let that happen,
you have let that happen. Right. Mm-hmm.
So you can't come up with a response and try to tell me that that you actually did what you had to do, and some people don't get it. And I've told people that whatever you do out there, make sure you're in a zone that's comfortable for you.
Right.
When I've been
and it's
married
up to
now,
you, and it's up to you to make it a safe place. It's not up to everybody else to pander and to. It's up to you to know what's in your environment, to know if you're going to a function, what's gonna what's it going to be? What's it going to be like? Do you have your own car in case it's uncomfortable and, you can leave? Are you taking care of yourself? That's just, it's
That's one of
vital.
when you watch people, and I've talked to different ones about the fact that when in July I'll be married for 45 years, and when I met my wife, I said there'll be moments if we're someplace I may not be comfortable. If I'm not comfortable, I have to leave, and it's always been fine. And this idea of someone saying, "Oh, that's okay," it's not okay. Not for what we have writing on this.
Right.
This is like this is like a thing for life. If people would get a hold of that part of it and tell how important it is. When I've talked to people, fine. I'm not someone that's saying that no one can drink. I know one thing, I can't.
Right.
And I know people go out and celebrate and do these things on holidays. But as soon as you approach them with the fact that, how are you getting home? I said, you've made all these plans. You have a new gown and everything else. And you spend a fortune to do what you're doing. You don't even know how you're getting home.
You don't have an out. Mm-hmm.
I said, and you tried to explain to people that these are the issues. And I did it to a radio personality one day, and she probably wasn't thrilled. They were campaigning about something, and I asked her what she was doing for New Year's. And I said, how are you getting home? With no response. And that concerned me.
That forward thinking.
Yes.
Yes, we're one day at a time, but a lot can happen in a day. So it's like, okay, and that's one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Ed. How do you start your day every day?
My state, as soon as I put my feet on the floor, I already know that I've been blessed.
Amen.
With the fact this is the start of another day. And because this idea of people talking about what they're going to do it's not down the road. I had to get up this morning and put my feet on the floor, and thank God that I'm on this journey. That put me this journey because I have had an opportunity to learn and meet so many people out there that nowhere's in life. I went to Dale Carnegie once because they said I had an issue about speaking in public, and my wife said, "How on earth can anyone say that you have a problem speaking in public?" And I've been everywhere. I marched with Cesar Chavez years ago in the Great Boycott in New York City. I've been in picket lines. I've been in coal mines where the miners were on strike over benefits. There are so many different things in this life I've had a chance to do. It's unbelievable, and the different things that come. I've been awarded from the sheriff's office about volunteers of the year, and even a race car organization 2 years ago gave me a humanitarian award. And I was in Florida, and my son accepted it. And when they got up to speak, it wasn't about racing. What it was about is that I worked with the court system at home in Albany. I also worked with the court system in Florida while on vacation. And they announced that at that banquet. I was more proud of that moment in the first place that my son was there to accept this award. He was also the one that I could have killed in a car accident. And to look at that, all those things, the benefits alone that we have are so unbelievable. And that's why, in the first place, it is so great to talk with you and watching you on this mission of spreading that word to people. Because
thank you for
that. 50 years ago, I got news for you. People looked at like it was something wrong with you.
Right.
And the first thing they would tell you, no one made you drink.
Outcast.
And you never knew what the next strange thing would be from these people. And so looking at today, it has come so far. Not far enough, but it's come so far.
I agree.
But it's
We've
No,
we've
it's
got we've got to, and that's one of the things, Ed, that I, in doing this little venture, which again, I'm a mortgage banker, honey. I'm not a podcast, but I'd never even listened to a podcast before I started this thing, and God just put it in front of me and just on my heart that people need hope. People need hope. They need to hear that if you have a problem, there is hope. There, you don't have to live like this, So we're coming to an end of our time. I want to ask you. So let's say that person that needs that hope is listening, and they hear that you have this amount of time sober, and which you just. That is such a mountain when you're just at the bottom of it that you can never imagine, attaining or climbing. What would you say to that person that's ready to just end it all?
One of the first things I would look at is that you are not going to make this journey overnight. You didn't get to where you are overnight, and sometimes we lose so much sight of that.
Mm-hmm.
It is that single step to get yourself out there to get that help that you need, and finding a location that's comfortable for you and that you feel comfortable with. And because there are so many people today that can be there to help you.
Talk to someone
that have been down that road. And that's the part you need to be able to be in contact with a person that has seen this and has lived it. Because I have a major issue with places that say, "Oh, here's a great counselor here." They don't know what I lived.
Right. Yep.
And to me,
school can't teach that. School cannot teach that.
I wish that you would have a counselor and a person in recovery next to the counselor,
mm-hmm.
so that the responses could be screened through two people, not
right.
one.
Absolutely.
And to me, and I do know one thing, and for the fact that anyone that's out there, if this is the 10th time you've tried, try 11.
Right.
Because it is that important. That it's that important. And I know for the longest time I used to have an issue with it. It's that more important because of you. This is that point in life that you have to be selfish enough to say the most important person in this picture is you.
Amen.
Not anybody around you. This is not a world of helping the whole world. We want you to help yourself.
Right.
And sometimes we overlook that with that, we're going to help everyone. Well,
mm-hmm.
we are not helping everyone if we can't help ourselves.
Right. Well, and that analogy that they give us, when you're on an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down, what's the first thing you're supposed to do? You put it on yourself. You put it on yourself before you put it on your child, before you put it on your spouse, before you put it on the person across the aisle. Because if you don't save yourself, you're no good to anybody else. So you're right. It's a different kind of it's a different kind of selfish that you have to be, to try to help save your own life. But everybody knows someone that is affected by this disease. Everybody knows someone. Talk to someone.
So many people don't want to comprehend. It does. Yep. And when you ask a person, does it affect you? Well, take a look around. In the program that we had, we used to have 600 pairs of shoes. And the purpose of it was to say these number of people that died in car accidents from alcohol related in 1 year in New York State. And what we asked the people in the room, how many people did it affect? Thousands of people that either brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, aunts, uncles, grandparents. And we don't always look at that. For some people, the sadness of the fact that you go into a funeral, but then I've stood next to mothers that have lost that child. When you're talking about 10 years later, and someone's foolish enough to walk up to this mother and say, well, when are you going to get over this?
Oh, dear.
And those statements are frightening. And of course, even with all the years I have, when that mother who lost her child 10 years ago to a drunk driver puts her arm around me to say she's proud of me, I could bust out crying with the fact that it is
for the
hard
grace
to
of God.
and And I hear from some of these people that, and the stuff they've been through. When I watch a woman stand up and speak at a victim impact panel, she had lost her leg. She said, I have a life sentence, and the other person that did this is getting out of jail soon. Those issues, when you look at it, it's so very different. Now she's had 19 prosthetic legs that don't work, and she has phantom pain that for a leg that's not there. So there's just so many different things out there, but I think we can always do better. I think we're doing so much better today than what we once were, and I think it was one of those things that all of a sudden people are speaking.
I love it,
and letting people, and that's why when I heard this and that you were doing this, to me, it is so very important, because I've heard from people that a year after I met with them over anything, all of a sudden they will say to me, when you handed me a coin with a Serenity Prayer on it, I didn't know what you gave it to me for. And then they're saying a year later, I've been sober for 1 year.
Wow.
And those moments are the moments that it's working.
Yep.
And it can work.
It matters.
And that's why anything we can do out there to let people know that this is what it is, and this is the life you can have. My Easter yesterday was the best possible Easter I could have. I don't have a crashed car in the driveway. That was one of the biggest benefits probably I ever saw, is that when the holiday is over now, I still have a car.
You can remember it, and family is not mad at you, and it's a beautiful life. Well, I for one am so grateful that you're sober, and I'm so grateful that God put you in my path to get to meet you and talk to you and hear your wisdom, and I just love that you're a warrior for recovery, and I think that God is going to continue to use you until He calls you home, and I'm so happy about that.
Well, next year when we get to Valentine's Day and it's 50 years, I will. I'm trying to even figure. Some people are saying to me, "How on earth do you celebrate?"
We need to have a party. Give me a heads up, man. Rick and I'll jump on a plane, and I'd love to come to that party.
And I tell you, I appreciate so much what you're doing.
Thank you.
This is the effort that you're putting into this, and I do know we got to meet on Facebook. I would hope that people understand, like anything in the world out there, there is good and bad of something, but to me the benefit is that important, that you have contact.
100%.
People that are looking for that bit of hope, it's there, and that's about the only. I want to make sure that there is hope there.
There
is.
And
it's that important. This issue is that important. This is your life, and I just want you to have a better life, and that's all we can go with. And for someone that that looked at this at 26 and now I'm 75, I don't even know what.
Don't know how that happened. You don't know how that happened. Well, Ed, God bless you. Thank you so much for joining me. And I hope to maybe have you on some other time.
Yep, certainly, anytime. And I appreciate all that you do. And this is a big deal for people. And,
it is a big deal.
And we just like to make the world know that this does work, and this is the other side of it. And
amen. Amen. Thank you, Ed.
But we've been blessed, and thank you very much for everything.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Have a blessed day, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now. Thanks for listening to Purpose Driven Sobriety. Keep coming back.